Evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the St. Peter School Board. It is Monday, May 20th, 2024. We are in the Governor's Room at the St. Peter Community Center. Thanks to the heroic work of our crew, it is 6:36 p.m. and we're starting. So let's do it. The first thing we need to do, call the meeting to order. Next up, Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Superintendent Gronseth is not here tonight, as evidenced by the empty chair, but we'll proceed anyway. We've got information to share on all the agenda items that normally Superintendent Gronseth would share, and he'll be back at our next meeting. We need to consider and adopt the agenda before you, also available in your board book.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is adopted. Do we have any requests to speak? Okay. Thank you. Next up is approving the consent agenda items. You can find these in the packet and in front of you and on a board book, page 3 through 35 in your packet.
There was a couple items that I wanted to point out or have a question about. One was the retirement of Mrs. Shoemaker. Looks like she had been teaching for 39 years, but 21 of those years had been in St. Peter, which I thought was rather remarkable.
Awesome.
So sad to see her leaving, but excited for whatever her next adventures were going to be, which hopefully is a lot of relaxation and maybe a little bit of subbing if we can get her back. And also, I don't know if we want to pull it out, but I saw that there was a memo in there about the assignment of Mrs. Zakora down to South. And I was just wondering if we were going to be getting a little more of a transition plan for that, or if it was just going to be just this memo. So I don't know if we wanted to pull that out, or if that was something that was going to be talked about further at a different meeting, possibly. I mean, I know that was part of our budget adjustment. I just didn't know how we were going to be following that through. If that was going to be something that, we were going to be looking at. Is this working? Like, what are going to be the, we don't just want to do it and then just be like, so if we were going to pull that agenda item out to talk about, but I know Mr. Gronseth isn't here, so I don't know how we want to proceed.
I would say Mr. Gronseth is not here, of course. Typically, I don't think that would be something that would be included in a consent agenda. This is simply the business portion of approving that transition. That said, I'm fully confident that there are conversations happening about what that transition and plan look like, and I think we could probably put a pin in that for a conversation at a study session, or for perhaps which committee might want to talk about that. Human Resources Committee might make sense. I don't know, or a discussion at a committee.
Okay.
But I think that in terms of the consent agenda, this is simply the approval of that plan that was put in place as part of the budget adjustment, fiscal 25 budget adjustments.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I will move the acceptance of the budget, the consent agenda, pages 5 through 35. Do you want me to read those? Please don't.
Yeah, please start from the top. Yeah.
Get comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Any further discussion?
I will say I did get through all the bills and wire transfers and everything.
Well done.
Seems to be all on the up and up.
Thank you, Mr. Cow. Yeah. Tracy, thank you for pulling out the recognition of Ms. Shoemaker. Other discussion? Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have our student spotlight. Shema Saeed is here. Mrs. Engeldinger, the floor is yours. Welcome, Shema.
Hi. Thank you for coming tonight. Shema, I know she's especially busy at this time of the year too. She will be graduating on May 31st. And when I was picking my student spotlight, I really just thought it would be enlightening for the board to meet Shema and just to meet one of our very impressive students and to hear about her journey to graduation here from St. Peter. She's only been with us for a year. I think your family moved to St. Peter last spring, so she enrolled in St. Peter's schools about a year ago with very little English, speaking like 4 other languages though, correct? Yep. Yes. I mean, puts all of us to shame, obviously. But over the course of the year, we've talked a lot, and I've learned about her education in Turkey and seen her transcript from there, which was also incredibly impressive. And I know that through conversation, she was working with upper level professors at her high school there. And then I learned about how she's managed to maintain a 4.0 at St. Peter while also learning English for the first time. She's also become a student leader. I'm sure you guys would agree with that. She volunteered. Well, I asked, but she did volunteer. She didn't get paid anyway, so I guess that would be a volunteer. That'd be a volunteer job. I guess the real reason that I invited her here was she came to an all-staff meeting and presented right before Ramadan was starting about what our Muslim students are going through and how the process of fasting and prayer and all of that would be affecting their school days in order to help the instructional staff better understand all of our students. So with that, we didn't really have much of a plan other than I wanted you to meet her, and I've never met anybody like her. She's just got a big heart and works really hard, so thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes.
That's so sweet to be here. And
See?
yeah,
She's just
have
the
this
best.
moment. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. I'm sure that you'd like to hear about future plans, maybe a little bit about how this year has gone. Yeah.
Yep. First, I want to say hi, everybody in here. My name is Shema. I just came last year. How she said. My English is not that fluently, so if I do any mistake, I'm sorry right now.
It's so good.
I just start to learn English maybe a year right now, and I have so many hard things going on, like learning English and go to college, like graduate, all those things. But I'm so glad to be in St. Peter High School. It's give me more goals, it's give me bright future, and also my teachers, my presidents, and Miss Engel Dingle, they're amazing, and they support me. I think that's the way actually I build my English more faster. And right now I'm so glad to be in there and to graduate from St. Peter High School. My plan is go to Gustavus. I want to be biomedical engineering, but I want to be pediatrician, so I want to be pediatrician biomedical engineering. It's double major, but that's my future, and I have many reasons why I want to be that. So yeah, I just came from Turkey, and I lived Turkey 12 years. I can speak 4 languages fluently, and I'm glad to be here and meet with you dears. Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Yep.
Which 4?
Which 4? Okay, that's a beautiful question. I know Turkish. Somali is my home language, and I know Arabic, and also a little bit English.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah. Those 4.
And she said Spanish is the next one she wants to tackle. Why stop at 4?
Yeah.
Right.
I have a question. Was there any activities that you were involved in, not even sports activities or the play or anything like that? Or was there an activity that you wished that we had that we didn't have?
Absolutely. I've been in many activity, different activity. I have them. Most of them is sports, and I have out sports activities. In US, I've been last semester for different activity is art club, make trial,
What else? I have theater crew, and also I have math club. So I be all those clubs. Also in Turkey, I have many different clubs. We have like homeless people clubs. We help them out to school. Those people need help and stuff like that. I'm going volunteer for kickbox clubs. I'm be volunteering there 3 years, and I work in there like volunteer for the small kids. Also, I teach the people they want to learn Turkish languages, my friends and stuff like that, give them special classes for them, like volunteering and teach them Turkish. So yeah, I've been different things. I can say, if we talking about sports, I am 5 years handball player. Also, I played 2 years soccer, and I've been leader for my class. Also, I love soccer so much, and I'm dancing. Yeah, yeah. I think all this, those are what I did. All
Wow.
of them. Yeah.
Shema helped plan and prepare for our Black Joy Day as well, so helped organize the food session and helped lead the dance and
Yeah.
henna session, so
Yeah.
she was pretty integral in that planning as well.
As you may recall, you were one of the Lions Students of the Month, and Mrs. Engel did introduce you, and everybody was awed with, you know, as I think as everybody here, about what your accomplishments have been. Right after that, my wife and I both went over to the admissions office and passed your name on, and obviously Gus Davis knew already about you, so I'm just delighted to hear that you're going there. That's great. There's a really good dean of students there too, by the way.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You don't even talk about it like it's a struggle, but I think about homework for most of our kids, and Shema was talking to me about her process for reading texts, and there's an app that will translate it to Turkish, so reads it in Turkish, writes it, then translates it again from Turkish to English, so everything is taking a lot more steps
Yep,
than
absolutely.
than it does for most, but
Yep. Today either
So
take the same
impressive.
time, same thing. Like I have project, so I need to do kit books for the economy classes. So my class, I need to write down Turkish and read down English. So that's take more long, but I try to catch the class. So it's like surviving, but I love to do that thing because also I'm learning the language and it show, oh my God, I'm doing something. You know what I mean? So it's fun. Yep. It's kind of, yep.
impressive.
Can't wait to see what happens in your life. I
Yeah.
just
I know.
somehow have to keep in touch.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's been great having her this year.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Do we have a student council report, Molly and Kira?
So like Mrs. Engeldinger said, graduation is coming up. So seniors have been doing a lot for that. We had our parade where we walked through all the schools with our graduation gowns and caps on. We go to Valley Fair soon, which is going to be really fun. And we have our wisdom retreat coming up. And also the speakers for graduation were chosen. So it will be Grace Tollefson, Brendan Larson, and Nabil Jamak. And I think they'll do a really good job. And then I'll hand it off to Kira.
Another part of our kind of graduation preparations was yesterday. The school hosted senior awards night. So a lot went on there. It was a pretty lengthy ceremony where we went over students graduating with honors and high honors. National Honor Society students were granted their stole for graduation, and then there was also some other awards given out, as well as different scholarships, and the Dollars for Scholars money was also awarded, so students found out things that they won and qualified for. And then also our student council newly elected our leadership team for next year, so I just wanted to give those students a shout out. So our co-presidents next year will be incoming seniors, Emmy Remmert and Isabel Mish, and then we have 4 executive counselors next year, which is pretty exciting. So incoming juniors, Ruby Sleda, Kira Friedrich, Sophie Meyer, and Shelby Hall will be acting on the executive council. So we're excited that they'll be taking over for us next year. I think the future is bright for our student council. So very excited. Is there any other questions or anything for us? We do unfortunately have to head out early today, but I want to thank you guys for.
You're good. You can watch it on TV later.
Right. Okay. Exactly. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
All right, we will move into the section of the agenda with action items. The first action item up is the acceptance of gifts, donations, and grants, and Megan Gracia is here to talk to us about it. Hi, Megan.
Yeah, most of it is outlined in the addendum, but there are 3 donations or grants that we have this month. One is a $4,000 grant to go towards the Spark Mobile Art Studio program. One was some take-home art kits for K-4 students that are either in after-school programs or qualify for free and reduced lunch. And one is a $2,000 grant to go towards the Indigenous Joy Day next year. So we're asking that you accept those.
I move that we accept those donations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the gifts? These incredibly generous gifts, which is awesome. That will
Excuse
support
me.
really good programs. Yeah.
Megan, do you know if these are all first-time gifts, or have some of those been received in the past?
I don't know.
Good. Again, very generous.
Mm-hmm.
Much
There
appreciated.
are some similar ones from the Sparks program and the take-home kits. I feel like were given last year. Maybe not the same dollar amount or the same number of kits,
Sure.
but similar donations from those programs.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So Megan, does the district somehow write a thank you to these organizations or donors?
It's a great question that I don't know the answer to.
believe
I'm
the
going to
answer
say
is
yes.
We had that discussion with a previous gift at one point, and Superintendent Gronseth and I talked about it, and I believe that is practice. We can double check though to make sure. Any further discussion? Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of accepting the gifts outlined in the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much to the generous donors. Item number 2, consider approval of policy manual revisions with no changes.
Okay, and I
Ms.
am on
Martins.
the policy committee, and we have considered all of these. These are basically statutory changes that we didn't have to do anything with. So we're recommending that we accept all of these policies as they have been written in your notes.
So are these some that are required to do annually?
Well, yes, there's some that are new, and then there are some that have just a little bit of just statutory language change.
These are from the 100s, so
Right, so we're starting over again with the series, so yes.
So they have no changes, or they have? 'cause
They're
it says-
in your packets. There's some changes, some of it is statutory based on the last legislative session and so on.
No substantive changes.
Okay.
So when there are
Nothing-
substantive
nothing
changes,
that-
we need to bring it for a second
Right.
reading. But
Because
when
it just, because it says they are brought forward with no changes.
It's just no substantive
No
changes.
substantive.
Okay.
Yep. So as has been our practice with policy, when there are just adjusting slight words or tweaking
That makes sense.
statute numbers, things like
I was just wondering why
that.
we were bringing them forward with no changes to begin with, but that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyways, so.
Yes.
Well, some policies have to be approved annually too, even if they have no changes. So I didn't know if these were some of those or not.
So I move that we accept these policies as written with the no substantive changes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 3, consider approval of policy manual revisions, second reading. So this was brought to us last meeting where we looked at it for the first time. Policy committee, have we received any feedback?
I haven't received none.
Okay. Is there anything additional you want to say about the?
Again, the main changes have been just what we needed to do statutorily, but we felt like there was a potential for a little longer for people to read through them, so we asked for a second reading. So, again, I will move that we accept these policies as printed in your packet.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
So this will change though, right, with the recent legislation, so
Right.
we have to replace world's best workforce with
Correct. With
whatever
with
that
the new
term is.
terminology.
Which,
Yep. And we'll have lots of places where we need to make that title name change throughout our policies. But a majority of that will be not substantive changes. It will be swapping out a title of the program, just the language. But yes, that will be changing. Further discussion? Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries and policy 601 has been approved. Next up, page 46. Consideration of rescinding a previously passed non-renewal resolution. Ms.
That's right,
Prafke.
yes. So as you may recall, on April 29th, special board meeting, there was a resolution for a non-renewal passed regarding Maggie Anderson, a 1.0 FTE middle school science teacher. Since that time, we have received a resignation from a 1.0 middle school science teacher. Therefore, Maggie will maintain her position, and the recommendation is that that non-renewal is rescinded.
Make a motion to accept the non-rescission, or the,
To rescind.
To
to
rescind.
rescind
Yep.
the
Previously passed.
previously passed resolution. There we go.
I will second it. And then I have a question for you. Will this be by any chance your third year of probation?
This will be your second.
So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and we have rescinded the previously passed non-renewal resolution for Maggie Anderson.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
So even though it's a resolution and we can do it that way?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Because, yes. Because it's not a resolution.
Because you're rescinding a resolution. Just to be on the safe side, you might want to do it.
Do a resolution,
Just do a roll call.
a roll call vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So we have a motion and a second. We will go around and do a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Ayes. Continue to have it. Thank you.
Good thing that went well,
Yeah.
right?
Good turn there. All right. Now we move on to information items. The first, review of policy manual revisions, first reading.
Okay, and in this group, again, we felt like maybe it required, there's not a lot of changes, most of it is statutory, but we did want to make sure everybody had a good chance to read through them if that is something that we're going to do. But then also the Credit for Learning 620 has been referred, it's with the counselors and Ms. Engeldinger, so that for their advice and input on that. And that is the group that we're putting out just for second reading.
The three policies are in your packet. Curriculum Development 603, 616, School District System Accountability, and 620, Credit for Learning.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So this will be the first reading. Please provide feedback if you have any. If for the next, to the policy committee members, Rosbach, me, Ms. Martins, and we will discuss.
Mr. Chair, just for my own education, what's the impact of changing shall to must?
One or the same thing.
Of shall to must.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the board shall or the board must?
Probably statutory language is my guess.
I know there's a former English teacher in there.
Yeah.
I'd say must just carries a little bit more weight.
Like
Yeah.
strengthens it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Takes out the wiggle room,
Yeah.
particularly for required things. Seemed like a good answer. Good job. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I was just checking. Yeah, just checking with others.
The legal community is moving to a strong preference for must as the clearest way to express a requirement or obligation.
Oh, yeah, the legal community, as we've
That's
been
it,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thank
that's what we, yeah.
Is that Surrey or?
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
It's a cloud.
Will the policy committee be bringing policy 714 to us for review with the fund balance?
Oh, that's the one that
With
talks
the-
about the,
Yeah.
The
Yep.
annual review?
we will, I believe, at our next meeting,
Yes.
is my
Okay.
I
understanding.
believe that's when we've got that scheduled.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
the credit for learning, page 60, Roman numeral 5, section B, number 2. Now that I've lost everybody and nobody cares anymore, I'm just confused on the nomenclature that's used. It talks about 7 quarter or 4 semester post-secondary credit shall equal at least 1 full year of high school credit. And maybe it's just the terminology, but to me, 4 semesters is 2 years. And 7 quarters is over 2 years. Now, that's quarters, but it's not credits. So I'm just curious on I'm confused on the terminology.
Do you have a thought on that, Ms. Engeldinger?
I'm sorry, Ken, can you read that again?
Certainly, yeah. Probably the easiest if you just went to that section, and you want all that? Okay. Let me just show it to you.
Thank you.
It probably boils down to immaterial, but it's something I wanted to clarify.
Sure, okay.
And Annette, you might want to come up to the microphone so people at home can hear what you're going to say. I mean,
Maybe I don't want
Well,
people to hear what I have to say.
I don't know. Even if you don't know, then we
This
can
is
get back to
confusing.
people, but
It is confusing language.
I know, but that's okay if it's confusing, then we can just come back and
Or
clarify.
4 semester post-secondary credits shall equal at least 1 full year of high school credit. That's an excellent question, Ken, because currently a post-secondary, a PSEO credit equals a high school credit. And at St. Peter High School, kids earn a credit in a semester, not a full year, but they would, under a normal 7-period or 6-period day schedule, that would be a full year course. Does that make sense? What do you
Might
think,
have
Bill?
something to do with credits versus classes.
And
So
that's
when
what-
you have a 4-credit semester class, I mean, it just meets 1 semester, but it's worth 4 credits. So it probably meets 4 days a week or something along those lines.
Typically, they're defined, to my knowledge, though, a course in a semester is a course. Then a general
Right.
semester would be 3 to 4, sometimes 4.5 courses.
But I think some colleges go by number of credits. So you have a 3-credit course or a 4-credit course.
And that's very possible what it means, but I just thought it'd be something we maybe should clarify.
Because a lot of times your introductory courses will be
No, I
3-credit
understand.
courses.
I understand what you're saying.
Then you'll have the 4-credit course.
FIAD courses, for example, or quarter credits or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why it's back with you guys.
The one interesting change in here that, as a high school principal, I would would have lobbied against, or I did. That schools that give weighted grades for upper level courses, such as our AP classes or our concurrent enrollment classes that kids take at the high school, now it's state statute that we also have to give the weight to PSEO classes. We didn't, just because we're not responsible for that instructor or the course or even necessarily all of the content. We've approved them if they're replacing one of our, we've approved certain courses to replace our graduation required classes, not necessarily our electives, but, so that will be a change that you see in this one.
And that's on page 63 in your packet there, so.
Thank
See,
you.
those
Probably
kind
the
of-
biggest
But
thing that
Annette,
you'll see in here.
Do we even have a choice sometimes? I mean, doesn't statute say, for instance, English, that if you take a college English course, it substitutes?
It has
for-
to be approved, it has to be approved by the, in order to cover, say your junior English credit, it has to cover those same standards. Otherwise, it could be an elective.
Okay. So all those college courses that our kids are taking, their instructors have gone through and assured us that they're covering all the state standards that are supposed to be covered?
The PSEO courses, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, hardly any of our students actually take PSEO anymore. I believe we only had 5 this school year, versus
College in the schools.
many,
Yeah.
yeah, that used to, but the addition of college in the schools, while it's still an additional cost over and above a regular course to us, has saved us from a lot of kids walking out the door and across the street.
Well, it's more conducive to the kids
Yeah.
to
Yep,
enjoy their high school career rather than running off to a college campus.
So they get weighted grades for college and schools?
yes.
And did they used to?
They have always, if it's a course that they've taken at St. Peter High School.
Okay.
And now they also will, if it's a PSEO class.
After this?
Mhm.
So is that the case when we're doing AP courses versus post-secondary? The AP courses got it, but the post-secondary didn't.
Correct.
Same reason.
Mhm.
Do most of the AP classes that are offered, do students take the test at the end of the class for collegiate credit?
Depends on the course.
Okay.
Some would tell you that in the course of a semester, of a 90-minute block class, that's really hard with that test being in the spring,
Yeah,
which is true.
sure.
Our kids do actually relatively well on the AP US History class, on that test. Some do well on the AP Calc, but they're not required to take that test.
Sure, right, exactly.
So-
Unless they want college credit
Yeah,
for it. Right.
yep.
Yep.
It is difficult for the AP courses on the block schedule because they're done in the middle of January. But if you have a comprehensive review program for them, it's easier for those students than the ones that are currently in the class because the test comes so usually late April or
This
very
just last
early
week,
May.
They were just
Last
taking
week.
those
Yeah.
classes last week.
Yeah.
So you're missing out on 3 weeks of class.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
So for future, like, with something like that, would it be possible for, like, when they came, like, for the first reading to kind of have just like a little, like, hey, these are the big changes for this particular policy?
And your red line,
That's
your
what
red
it's
line is
Yep,
that.
yep, I get that, but, okay. Okay,
That's why we're trying to give you a little bit longer to do the review.
yes,
because they-
I understand that, but I just, to have that conversation is kind of helpful though, too.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is every time we can do that.
Yeah.
That's why we need feedback from
Yeah.
everyone.
and that would be,
That's great.
we encourage that you contact us.
Mhm.
So is the blue new language?
Yes.
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 And
I believe blue means new,
And then if it's strike,
Red is changed.
changed, right?
and strike-throughs means what we had before that's
Okay.
going away.
Good work, Paulson.
Putting it down. Okay. Next up, fiscal year 25 budget presentation. Ms. Gracia. Welcome back.
Because this is just informational, I'm going to go through it kind of quickly. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any point. There should be 4 items in your onboard book for you. The first that we're going to talk about is a 2-page, looks like this, has green across the top. It's our detailed summary, as you will, of the budget. So the whole first page is the general fund, Fund 1, and it's broken down into assigned, unassigned, restricted, assigned, and then operating and LTFM. So the focus that we've had over the last couple of weeks is on just that top section, the general fund unassigned, which for 25 we're estimating will begin at 3.4 million. We have 27.1 in revenue, 27.1 in expenses. The adjustment accounts for either the water mitigation funds coming in or funds going out to cover negative restricted fund balances. And we are projecting that we are going to end at $3.2 million for our fund balance at the end of fiscal year 25. When we budget, 70 to 80% of our expenses are salaries and fringe benefits. So we have a spreadsheet with all of our staff members, their salaries, their fringe benefits that they elect, and then we take our restricted funds and apply them across the board as much as we can. So as you can see in the restricted section, almost all of them end 25 with a 0 balance, with a few exceptions, MA, scholarships, and then student activities, which we can't touch. And then our assigned funds, as you can see, the $835,000 we will transfer in 24, so you don't see this any longer, which had been there in March. And for 25, we plan to move the remaining water mitigation funds, so you see that down in the assigned section. At the bottom is how we have been calculating our days expenditures per day. So you'll see that our unassigned general fund expenditure estimate is going to be 27.1 million. We divide that by 365 to get a dollar amount per day. We are estimating that we will end the year at 3.2 million. If we were to go for our target of 60 days, it would be 4.4 million. So we are estimating we're going to be at 43 and a half days at the end of 25. Are there any questions on this first page before we move past the general fund?
And now you are figuring the fund balance on the fund balance days on the expenditures and not on the revenue, which is different
Yes.
than
So
how our previous business manager was.
the last number of years we have been figuring our days, estimated days of operation in terms of revenue. In talking to business managers across the state, I didn't find a single other district that was calculating in terms of revenue. They were calculating days in terms of expenses. And if you look at our policy, it refers to expenses. And so we have made that shift as we've been calculating the last couple of weeks, our days of operation, to look at expenses instead of revenue.
So probably made like just a difference of like a few days, you think?
Yeah, it depends obviously if your revenue or expenses are more, which is more, but it's not going to double by any means.
Yeah.
They're usually somewhat close, so. Hold on. Okay, if you flip to the second page, there isn't going to be a whole lot of changes. This just looks at everything outside of the general fund. Food service, like we talked about in business committee, is the one that I personally am struggling to budget the most, just because with the change in revenue and not having completed a full year with the new funding model, we're not quite sure where we're going to land. Also with food costs and not knowing where inflation is going to be next year, this is our estimate for food service now, with a decrease in both 24 and 25. And when we get as we get throughout the year, we're going to continue to revise that, look at our actuals from 24 and look at our numbers from 25. So food service may adjust as we get those actual numbers and better predictors of our revenue and expenses going into next year. But as of now, we see using up some of our fund balance for food service. Community service is going to be also very similar to what you saw previously. There was a shift for the transportation for school readiness, so we took those expenses out. We also did a little bit of shifting for admin costs, just to reallocate some of our administrative time out of Fund 4 into Fund 1 based on where staff are actually spending their time overseeing those programs. Then we have debt redemption for our bonds, the scholarship, and insurance. So, are there any questions on the second page? Perfect. You do have a summarized version of that same information. It's just each of those different segments broken up into one line. I won't go over it, but it's there if people prefer to view it in that fashion. The third, so it should look like this.
Okay.
So like all of unassigned is together, restricted is together. So it's the exact same numbers, the same information, just tried to compile it together. So the third document that you have should be the 3-year rollout. In the past, Tim has done a 4-year rollout, but he always did the year that we already finished, so 24. For us, we just started with 25 and did 3 years moving forward. So when you look at this, it should be this document like this. We started with our 24 revenue, noted all of the changes that we made to get to our 25 revenue. Same with expenses. Started with 24 expenses, noted all of our changes to get to our 25 expenditures. I will just highlight a few things that were noteworthy. The levy is what we finalized this fall. So that is, again, I'm going to reiterate that this document is only the unassigned general fund. So this is not the whole general fund. This is not our whole budget. This is just the unassigned general fund portion. So that $362,000 is just the levy components that flow to unassigned general fund. But you'll see an increase there. A few lines down, we have activity fees for patrons and student activities. You'll see some increases there. That was part of the budget conversations that we've been having. If you move about halfway down, there's general education revenue. We have a decrease. That factors in both the 2% increase on the students that we have, as well as the estimate for students that we are losing. So that is those two numbers combined. The special ed aid and OSHWA reimbursement right below it of almost $400,000. That factors in cross-subsidy, reimbursement on our regular SPED expenditures, but then also some of the shifts that we made were for staff going over to OSHWA. Because those are non-resident pupils, we bill back to their districts for those costs, and it actually comes back to us in special education aid. So a lot of those shifts in that reimbursement make up that larger number. Unemployment revenue has to do with the summer unemployment for our staff that are going to be able to access that. We have $161,000 in COVID dollars that are expiring, so we have that there. The sale of the land from this year won't be in 25's activity, and then we also had a solar and safety grant that were in 24 that won't be in 25 either. So again, we're estimating 25 revenue for unassigned general fund at $27.1 million. If you go to the expense side, just a few things to note. Again, the COVID funds, the staff salary and fringe. So that is inclusive of the reductions that were made, as well as shifts to other funds outside of the general unassigned fund balance. The Rock Bend class reduction is something that we've been talking about. So no longer with the lease, the teacher and the para. District-wide supplies and materials is about halfway down. That was $90,000. That was taking a little bit from each of the different buildings that we have, each of the different departments, technology, DO. So that's combined. And then solar project, again, and safety grant is a larger number towards the bottom. So at the very bottom of the page is the same exact calculation you saw in the other document, starting the year at $3.4 million, adding our revenues, taking out our expenses and our transfer, ending at 3.2 at the end of 25, or 43 and a half days. Any questions on 25's revenues or expenditures?
So on the expenditures, for the embed expense estimates, so just, all the negatives, so the negative $60,000 for embed expense estimates, so we're saying that, what are we saying there? We're saying that,
So it is a combination of a few things. It has to do with the reduction of the case facilitator, but also then estimated increases for the rest of the programs that our students are in. So it's a combination of a few different things. We did estimate 4% going into 25 for our expenses, minus then backing out some of those positions that they're not going to provide us anymore. So overall, it should be a negative, but we do still have to factor in the other programs that we do still have that will increase.
okay. Because wasn't it gonna be like 100,000 or something, or
Well,
more than
so
100,000?
that would be like a position if we don't have Kelsey or Allison, but then we still have kids at MVS or MRS, and those costs are going to go up. So then our costs for those programs end up going up.
Okay.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to proceed to 26. On 26, you'll see two sides, so it's going to be similarly structured, revenues on top, expenses on bottom. On the left is if we were to approve 25 in June as it's presented to you, and then do nothing in 26. The right side is if we were to make those adjustments in 25, and then continue with the proposals as we've presented them the last few weeks for 26 as well. So we wanted to share both information just because 26 we're still going to be working on throughout this year as we get to next year. But both sides will be almost identical with the exception of one line. So starting 25 revenue was 27.1 million. We are estimating 2.5% for our pupils that are still here. We are predicting a 25 decrease in 25 students going into 26. Again, the special ed aid would pick up cross-subsidy reimbursement on our SPED expenses and OSHWA. And then student support personnel, that is something that was new in 24. Initially, we were under the impression that it was a 2-year program, or excuse me, a 2-year funding stream. It is not. It is a continual funding stream. So we have added that back into our revenue projections. However, the caveat to that is that there has to be a new FTE in certain areas, such as social work. So if we are to, in our initial presentations to you, we were going to reduce a social worker because that funding stream was running out. However, we had 2 social workers on the list, and if we reduce one of them, we would not have access to those funds anymore. So we do have it on the list. However, we have to be careful about then the expense side, how we factor that out. But we did want to put it back on here, and then we did take the reductions off at this point, and we'll work through that as we move into next year. On the expense side, we are estimating just shy of 1.2 million on salaries and fringe for 26. There's going to be a new FMLA tax that will kick in for employers. We have 0.35%. Our MVET expenses we estimated at 4%, utilities at 3%, and transportation at 2%. So again, on the left side, if we were to continue with 26 without making any additional changes, we would end 26 with $2 million or 26.3 days. If we were to make our planned adjustments, which is the right side, there's that additional tentative 26 budget adjustment plan. That's $807,000 in reductions. Keep in mind that that is the reductions, not any of the shifts. The shifts have already been factored in up above. So that, if we were to continue with that plan, we would be at 2.86 million or 37.7 days. And then the very last is going into 27. So similarly, continuing left and right. Left is if we did nothing in 26. So we estimated for 2% on basic aid. Again, 25 students in 27 as well, with a decrease of 25 students. Special education aid, and then there actually is going to be EL cross subsidy that picks up in 27. So they help pick up some of those costs that aren't covered by the revenue that we get for EL. Then on the expense side, we have just over $1 million in salary and fringe for increases. And then we did actually the same estimates for MVED utilities and transportation. So 4 on MVED, 3 on utilities, and 2 on transportation. Again, the only difference on this side is then the estimated increase to salaries and benefits is less on the right, as well as the starting expenditure number is less on the right. But if we were to continue with 27, making no changes in 26, we would be down to 92,000 with 1.1 day. Obviously, we're not going to do that. We're trending towards the right and hopefully identifying further things that we need to do, or hopefully having an increase in students. But if we are to continue with 26 as we have planned, we would be at 1.7 million or 22 days of operation. The very last item that should be in your packet is the ADMs that we are using for our budget. And this is the same information that actually was here in March. So just looking at 24, 25, 26, and 27. At the bottom, there we did want to include the demographic study and our comparison to where the demographic study said we were going to be and where we estimate that we are going to be. So you can see that for a number of years, we ended up higher than what the demographic study thought we were going to be, and then as you see, as it trends toward the right, then it flip-flops. Our estimates are lower than the demographic study. So, are there any questions?
So when we're looking at this, the 24-25 and the 25-26 and then 26-27, the 25-26, if we have our funding shifts, budget adjustments, conceivably left with 37.7 days of operation, a fund balance of 37 days. But in 1 year's time, based on our current plan, we'll burn through 15 of those days by the following year. We'll be left with like 22. So we just all need to see that, and I mean, we can't operate for more than 3 years doing that.
So Megan, if we go back to that 40,000 that you added back in, we have to add a social worker back also to get that 40,000? Am I understanding that right?
Yes, so at this point, with 26 as it is, we added that money back in, but we did also then take a social worker off of the reduction side of things.
But
So yes, you'd have to spend money to save money,
yeah,
is what you'd end up doing.
you're better off from a financial standpoint, not necessarily a student service standpoint, of just allowing that 40,000 to go away, because you're going to have to spend 80 to get that 40, approximately. Okay. So that's going to be a difficult decision. But again, if we're losing students, there's got to be a point somewhere. We're not losing them to the rate where one social worker will be twiddling their thumbs. So, I mean, it's, if we have to get rid of a social worker, we're certainly going to reduce our capacity to serve our kids. But those are the difficult decisions.
Well, and just one other thing to note is that Bill had shared our student tracker that we use. So every Monday, our Mars coordinator updates our student tracker. If you were to compare that to this, one thing to note, if anyone is ever looking, is that that looks at students in the seat. This looks at students that we're receiving revenue on. So they are not going to match. I will say that we have picked up about 15 kids since January, which is great, but we need them to stay next year. And a lot of them aren't necessarily our high school kids who are getting weighted more. And so, yes, of course, it would be really wonderful if they all stay, and that would change some of these numbers. But it's not to the point where it's going to change it so drastically that we need it to be. But it is a good trend, where in previous years we had, from January on, seen a slight decline. So that is positive news.
Go back to what you were saying. If we're continuing with the decline, like,
We're still digging a hole.
we're just continuing to dig the hole.
It's better. We've slowed it.
Yep.
We bought ourselves some time to plan and execute, but we're not done.
No.
So in the third year far off projection, you really need to have a couple of different numbers, don't you? I mean, if you, in the second year, if you go with the adjustments that we talked about, you're gonna come up with that 37. Okay, so then if you go to the third year, if you continue with the suggested adjustments, you're gonna be down to 22, right? But if you did the adjustments in the second year and then did do them in the first year or the third year, you're gonna be above the 22 a little bit, right?
Well, so 27 doesn't factor in any, at this point, 27 doesn't factor in any additional changes. It just builds on the changes that were made in 26.
I get you.
Yeah, very good, very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan.
See you next month for
Yeah.
some fun.
Thank you very much. The third item up, the 2023-24 annual superintendent evaluation process. 'Tis that time of the year. One of the primary responsibilities of a board, of a school board, is to hire and evaluate a superintendent, and that is what we are about to do. Information was sent to board members with a tentative timeline, May 22nd, which is Wednesday suddenly. I will be sending you all information. The email's almost ready, I promise. But you will receive. Yeah, yeah. We have a template of a form that we have used in the past that includes the superintendent's goals. And then Mr. Groundseth also provided some input on progress on those goals that is kind of helpful context as we look at each of those. And then we sort of give a ranking on each one. You'll get that template soon, Wednesday. And then the tentative timeline, May 22nd through June 5th, is the time that the board will do those, work on your individual evaluation forms for Superintendent Groundseth. Between June 5th and about the 10th, I will do compiling and sort of synthesizing all of that information that you board members have put into your individual responses. I'll put that all together and share it with you all back that you can review and edit. And if you have any things that you need to change or tweak or whatever, or ask clarification on before it is finalized, and then we will discuss it at a special meeting, likely preceding the June 17th board meeting. So because that happens in a separate special meeting, and we'll have an opportunity to talk about the evaluation. Yes, that is a closed meeting to talk about the evaluation. In addition, we will have some supplemental information. I will have a Google form that I'll provide to the administrative leadership team to ask for feedback. The general questions about Superintendent Groundseth's performance this year, things that have gone well, things that could have room for growth, and then a couple other small questions so that I can gather that feedback. I will then compile and analyze that, and we will use that as supplemental. That will not necessarily, the board does its evaluation. That is just supplemental information that can be helpful in thinking about sort of a more holistic view of how Mr. Groundseth is doing this year. Any questions about that?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
The being new since January, is the timeline for the review from July 1 to June 30th, the fiscal year, or is it calendar year, or what is the structure?
It is, yes, it is. It's the school year, so it's July 1 is the, yeah, so July 1 to June 30.
the fiscal year essentially.
Yeah.
That's what the goals were for, so.
Yeah.
Again,
Which is why we try to wrap it by the June meeting,
Exactly.
so that it's done in June.
Just as a disclaimer, I can't speak for Rhea, but we're not privy to the first half of that.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep, so you'll provide information based on what
Exactly.
you, yes, have been privy to. Correct.
You'll
So
be
fiscal
privy
year
to
is the-
some, because you'll get Mr. Grunz's input on what he felt his progress was.
Correct, yeah, so you'll see that in the form that you get, is his sort of narrative of his updates on the goals, so you'll at least see
Sure.
stuff that might have been before you started. Questions about that?
I'm just gonna say, because I've been asked, so like the, some of the, leadership on the, I wanna just say the teacher leadership group, not all the teachers, but just that leadership group, could they be included in on that feedback form? Something to think about. You don't have to give an answer right now. So I'm not asking for like all 300 teachers, but just that group that has been meeting more frequently.
Yep, I think any part of an evaluation process is to think about logistically how to manage something like that and to be equitable with who can provide feedback. I do know that our administrative leadership team is strong and likely has opportunities to gather to gather input from teachers on performance of anyone in the district, and so I think that likely will help shape the information that they provide to us too.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Just
but yes, noted. Duly noted.
providing that voice.
Sure.
So
Duly noted.
Charlie, are you planning inviting Superintendent Grunstead to the closed meeting?
Yes. Typically, that has been practiced. I think that if we are going to discuss an evaluation of a superintendent, that the presence of the superintendent is important.
I wasn't suggesting otherwise.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's important, especially if members have identified concerns, that he have an opportunity to provide response to those concerns.
Absolutely. All right. Thus ends the informational items. Reports, building principals.
Thanks, dear.
There you go. Thank you.
yes.
Good evening. So Mr. Graff and Miss Cora are out, have some prior commitments tonight, so they won't be joining us, but we welcome Ms. Engeldinger up to the elementary early childhood table.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for
Yes.
having me.
You are sure welcome. Well, you know, so the outside weather has been wonderful for preschool. And in the fall, we do lots of outside activities. But in the fall, we're also trying to learn routines and listening to the grown-ups and all those types of things. So this is really like the culmination of the year when you can go out, take kids on walking field trips, go to the park, and they know what they're doing. And they know the bus ride, and they know the routines. And so that has been really fun to see our kids getting ready for, many of them getting ready for kindergarten, not our 3-year-olds, but of course those who are turning 5 are getting ready to head to South. It's really fun to see that piece of that maturity and how they're just old hat now. So that's pretty cool. So we'll continue with those activities through the end of the year. We also have lots of fun things going on. We had caterpillars. Every classroom had caterpillars that they watched. That transformation, and they're letting them go, and doesn't matter how many butterflies leave, everybody squeals when they do, so that is wonderful. It is pretty awesome. So those are the fun things that we're doing. We're also preparing for fall, and so that takes a couple different looks, but in our school readiness program in particular, we're looking for those registrations. Our registrations are up. We're excited about that. We are going to be doing some shifting with how we're scheduling because we have a number of families interested in morning classes. So we're going to be adding a class there and reducing one in the afternoon to balance things out. So that's working out well and trying to meet the needs of families. So that is good stuff. One thing I did want to share is that at the past school board meeting, I shared the read and feed we thought was going to be back, and unfortunately, it is not. As I dug in deeper with the state and got a response that the first person that I spoke with was an error in telling us that we would probably be approved, and so those numbers weren't quite there. The positive side of that is that we will continue to provide breakfast and lunch for students attending our summer programming, summer school, that type of thing, but we just won't have that open site, and we will keep trying. Read and feed will be back. I've had 25 years. I've got probably 25 more in me. I'm getting read and feedback. So anyway, that's just a little bit. Yes, right? It's on the official record. But we'll keep you posted on that, of course, in the future.
All right, and just like preschool, South Elementary has just been a flurry of activities as well. We finished our assessments, our FAST assessments, and then we really, for the remainder of the year, it's now showcasing some of those things. And so we have lots of parent programs going on. Last week we had the opportunity to have our first concert on the big stage. So thank you to the high school for letting us use that. And just like the South parties, we go an hour and a half. Our concerts, they are home and out the door and can be in bed by 7:30 if they need to be. So it was a great event. Kindergarten went to Herberg's farm today, and they also have been to the fire station. First graders are going to the library. It's a great connection that the library has with us, trying to get students to have their library cards so that they can be utilizing that over the summer. The FFA is coming on Wednesday, and they will be bringing the Farm to You program. And one of my favorite memories of South is pulling in the lot one day and watching the sheep run up the hill and all these kids running after them. So we're hoping that there aren't any renegade animals running around, but if they are, I don't think there are too many people up at Scholarship America to help us herd them. So we'll just send the kids up after them. So that will be happening this Wednesday. Next Tuesday, we will have our own lovable llamas on the playground. So it's our end of the year family playground event, and the llamas are a hit on the ground, and once again, the South Hill provides a lot of entertainment that night. So we can have all that playground equipment, dancing, food, and the kids just want to roll down the hill with their friends. So that will be happening, hopefully, praying for good weather next Tuesday. And then just a reminder that our referral forms have gone home for the Summer Stars and Extended School Year program. So we're busy taking those registrations, and that will start on July 8th. And run through August 1st.
All the way through July. Is that those registration for Summer Stars gone all the way through 8th grade about the same time? Yep. All right. Well, greetings from North Elementary School, where we're just coming off the spring production of The Jungle Book. It reminded me when we used to have our concerts going on during the day at North, where we'd have like 4 rounds of crammed gym, because there was about 450 people in the gym, so it was packed, and it was kind of a steamy night, and the students did a fabulous job. About 52 cast and crew in that. Our directors, Mr. Lenhoff and Miss Kind, did a fabulous job. A lot of grants that they wrote this year, so they were able to mic up just about every student with wireless mics. It was really cool. That's one of the big frustrations. Kids, the actors and actresses work so hard on that, and they don't quite have the voice, like just throwing it out there in that gym space as an 8, 9, and 10-year-old. Some of them do. Very much so. But that really was able to, hear the actors and actresses up there speaking this time. So that made a huge impact. And Miss Kind is new this year too, and that she's a set designer and does a fabulous job. They did a really nice job. So congratulations to that crew. Also, fourth quarter passion projects. We had some great titles last Friday. Some of the ones that are more memorable. They had the breakout rooms with breakout boxes, karaoke, of course, with Mr. Nick, planting milkweed. That's a good one for the butterflies, right there. And then butter making was very popular. Students walking out with little cups of butter. It was awesome. All right. And then we have field day coming up next week on May 28th. So I think all the volunteers already signed up for that one. Parents, thank you so much. I mean, we send that out and it's full within like a day. So thanks, parents, for doing that. Then all the regular stuff, 4th grade of the Mill Pond, 3rd grade of the Gorman. 2nd grade's pickleballing this week at the pickleball barn in Mankato. And 4th grade all just went to Farm America in Waseca last week. So all those great annual events. And then big shout out to give some recognition to Student Council. Every year they try to improve activities for students in and around the building. This year they set their goal. We have a lot of soccer and football players. And so they were able to take all their fundraising this year, which they get through just the school store, selling treats at North events. And they were able to buy like soccer nets in a goalpost combo. So, and then the Dave and Jim, the crew up that paint the fields, came down and painted some nice lines out there. And so that was a huge hit. That was installed a couple weeks ago. And the biggest debate now is like, which are they playing, soccer or football? It's on the same field, soccer or football. So we had to put a calendar together like every other day, soccer, football. Otherwise, it's going to be a battle out there. So nice job, Student Council, and Mrs. Kennedy leads that crew of student government. Ms. Zingeldinger.
Good job, Mr. Doherty. We missed you last month.
You missed me.
We
Thank
did.
you. I missed
We
you
did.
guys.
Didn't we? Looking ahead to next year already, we have a planning meeting scheduled for Thursday morning. John Warren is on, he's on it. We're going to be hosting our first annual Hispanic Joy Day. And so obviously that's in the fall. So we've got to get planning on that now. And we've got a big group of high school teachers who are fully committed to helping out with those events and to continue those. It's also part of his plan for moving forward into next year to try to, in a developmentally appropriate way, to move some of those events or even at a classroom level, some of those really cool educational experiences that our high school kids have gotten into the other buildings. So that is very exciting. This time of the year is, as you can imagine, like every single day it's kind of like you're checking things off that calendar, and the girls talked about senior awards, and I want to congratulate that class. That's a big class of some really impressive kids. So they won scholarships and awards, and it was a lovely night, and it was done in under 90 minutes. So we're getting better. Speaking of FFA, our two first-year FFA advisors, Jacob Pearson and Jasmine Whitty, hosted the Roll-In for Landon, which is a huge undertaking. And unfortunately, I didn't get to go, but apparently they had over 70 cars, and in the last one it was like 50. So they ran out of food and ordered pizzas, and so congratulations to those two, and a thank you for continuing that event. It's a nice thing to honor the loss of Landon. One bit of information about graduation that the girls did not let you know is who our faculty speaker is going to be this year. You're all going to want to be there. I hope you're planning on it. I'll be getting your invitation to you shortly. Mrs. Elke will be giving the faculty address at graduation this year. So everybody's very excited about this.
Tickets are limited.
Yes, yes, exactly. But I know that almost all of you have participated in graduation in the past, but you're invited to get there a little bit early and gather and get your boutonnieres and corsages and get your marching orders from me. And it's going to be a beautiful night. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. For you.
The superintendent's update is pretty short. Speechless. Board members around the table. Ms. Ratzbach.
Nothing to report, really.
Very briefly, just wanted to say as the year winds down, we're approximately 8 months and 3 weeks or thereabouts into the school year. And nice job with the administration and the faculty, and just a good time to reflect back and look forward to next year. So thanks for all your good work.
Yeah, I didn't have anything either. I was just gonna tell the teachers to hang in there, like I say, 8 days.
Almost there.
Almost there, you can do it.
Almost there.
Yeah.
I saw where Mr. Gruntz has set out some summaries for the legislature's actions. Rather disappointing legislative year as far as getting things to help in education. So I have to apologize. I was on vacation last week, so I haven't gotten into all that stuff to give a more comprehensive report on that. But, disappointing.
Keep it up, teachers. We're going to do our best to hoe to the end of the row. It's going to be great. Looking forward to graduation ceremony, and it's a fun time of year. It's busy, busy, busy time. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good time. Fingernail time. Hang on. In conjunction with what Mr. Kaut said, I know that at least at the policy committee and I think at the education committee, we've had a discussion that we need to provide some training for legislators on what schools are and how they do it, so that the disappointing year won't be repeated with some of the bounty that was handed out. And then also I want to say that the NAPAC organization had their second annual end of the year ceremony. We had one senior who received an eagle feather and a star quilt, and a young man graduating from 8th grade. So this is something that we hope to continue to do, and boy, there's lots of food there too. So FFA and NAPAC need to get together. So, all right, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chair, one more thing.
Yeah.
Graduation, of course, the 31st, but also the Rock Bend graduation is coming Thursday.
Yes.
So, important day as well.
And Thursday at what time?
12:30.
12:30 at Galt Park, I believe.
Yeah.
Awesome. 12:30 at Galt Park. Great. We know what time it is. I'll entertain a motion to
I'll
adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Leave you hanging.